I was on the road that cold, moonless night, driving my truck along a desolate highway cutting through dense forest. The clock read almost 3 in the morning, and exhaustion was starting to weigh on my eyelids. But I was close to the depot, just a few more miles. I figured I could push through the last stretch and be done with it. The road was completely empty, with only the weak glow of my headlights lighting up the asphalt ahead. Everything seemed calm until, glancing into my rearview mirror, I saw 2 headlights appear on the horizon, illuminating the road behind me. They were distant but approaching quickly. At first, I thought it was just another driver. Maybe another trucker or someone in a rush. But as the minutes passed, I noticed something strange. The headlights kept a fixed distance behind me. No matter how fast or slow I went, the car behind maintained the exact same distance, as if it were matching my speed perfectly. A chill crept up my spine. Something wasn't right. I'd seen plenty of impatient drivers, but this car seemed to be following me with an eerie precision. I tried to shake off the fear, telling myself it was just paranoia from lack of sleep. But with each bend and curve, I'd glance back, and there it was, mirroring my every move. It felt purposeful, as though I were being hunted. I pressed the gas pedal harder, the engine roaring as I pushed from 50 to 60, then 70 miles per hour, a speed I rarely hit on that dark, winding stretch. Yet, the car behind me sped up too, keeping the same unervingly exact distance. It was like some ghostly presence refusing to let me escape. For about half an hour, the vehicle continued its pursuit, always at the same distance. A knot of anxiety grew in my stomach as my mind raced with possibilities. Who was in that car? Why were they following me? My thoughts spiraled into wild theories, none of them comforting. I didn't know what to think, but something urged me to keep moving. My only hope was to reach the rest area that I knew was just a few miles up the road. There, I could pull over and confront whoever or whatever it was. Finally, I saw the sign for the rest area up ahead on the right. My heart was pounding, a mixture of dread and a strange urge to face this unknown pursuer. I signaled and turned off the highway, pulling my truck to a stop with a sharp squeal of the brakes. I got out, standing in the cold night air, eyes fixed on the road, waiting to see the car pass. My hands were clammy, my breathing uneven. But I waited, and then, nothing. There was no car. The silence was deafening. I scanned the empty road, searching for any sign of lights or the faint hum of an engine, but the car had simply vanished. I walked out to the edge of the highway, peering into the darkness. Nothing. No movement, no shadows, no sound. It was as if the car had never existed. Confused and on edge, I walked back to my truck and got inside, trying to process what had just happened. That's when I noticed, in my rearview mirror, fresh tire marks on the road, exactly where the car should have been. But there was no sign of where it could have gone, no logical explanation for its disappearance. I slammed the door shut and sat there, trying to make sense of it. I'd never been one to believe in ghost stories or supernatural chases, but that night left me with an unsettling feeling, a suspicion that maybe some roads held secrets that were better left untouched. And in that moment, I realized that whatever had pursued me, I'd been driving north for what felt like hours. The road stretched endlessly, bordered by a vast, empty desert and a sky so dark it swallowed up any hint of starlight. Not a car in sight, not a town for miles. Just me, the road, and my truck. Nights like these can do weird things to a guy's head, you know? Makes you feel small. Makes you feel noticed. The CB radio had been quiet the whole drive. Usually, you get some truckers chattering about weather or traffic, but tonight? Dead silence. I leaned over and turned up the volume a bit, just to have some background noise, something to fill the eerie, empty space. That's when I heard it. Sam. It was soft, barely above a whisper, but clear enough to freeze me in my seat. I stared at the radio, waiting. Nothing but static. My name, though. No way that was my imagination. I tried to shrug it off. Probably just interference. Maybe someone else saying something that sounded like my name. I clicked the button to respond. Anyone out there? Silence. Just that low, hissing static, the kind that makes you feel uneasy even though you know it's just a radio signal. I put my hand back on the wheel and tried to shake it off. Just keep driving. But then the voice came back, stronger this time. Sam, you're getting close, aren't you? I didn't know what it meant, but I felt a chill run right up my spine. Whoever this was, they sounded familiar, like they knew me, knew exactly who was on the other side of that radio. The voice kept going, talking slow, like it was drawing something out. Just past that old sign for Hickson, didn't you? Bent up and rusted out. And the gas station. What a sad sight, that place, ain't it? Now, I knew something was wrong. The Hickson sign was miles back, and yeah, it was old and bent up, just like they'd said. And the gas station? Abandoned, windows shattered, graffiti all over. It was exactly as the voice described, and it was way too specific to be a guess. Heart pounding, I pressed the button again, trying to keep my voice steady. Who is this? No answer. Just static, humming like a mosquito in my ear. I kept driving, but my grip tightened on the wheel, eyes darting between the empty road ahead and that CB radio, half wishing it'd stay silent and half dreading the silence more. As I drove on, the voice started to fill in the blanks again, speaking up just as the road narrowed into a single lane that cut between two rocky hills. There's a bridge up ahead, you know. Real small, creaky thing. Might want to take it slow on that one, Sam. I could barely breathe. There's no way anyone could have known I'd take this road, let alone that bridge. I hadn't told a soul about my route that night. I'd barely even decided it myself. But there it was, just as they'd said, a narrow, rickety bridge just ahead, framed by the weak yellow glow of my headlights. And then, as my tires hit the wooden planks, the CB crackled to life with a sound that still haunts me, laughter. Soft, chilling, like someone whispering it right into my ear. It wasn't mocking or mean, but it carried a weight that settled into my chest, like a stone. Then, just as suddenly, it stopped. Nothing but dead silence. I pulled over right after that bridge, cutting the engine and just sitting there, breathing hard, heart pounding so loud I could hear it echoing in my own ears. My hands were shaking as I reached for the radio, my fingers brushing over the volume knob. I hesitated, thinking about turning it off. But I didn't. I couldn't. What if the voice came back? After a few minutes, I started the engine again, my eyes glued to the road as I sped away, leaving that bridge, and whatever was on the other side of the radio, far behind me. I drove on, faster than before, but the road felt endless, like it was stretching to keep me there in the dark. The desert looked different now. Shadows seemed thicker, deeper. My headlights didn't reach as far, and everything felt closer. It was like the silence itself had weight, pressing down around me, smothering out the hum of my truck's engine. Every now and then, I'd glance at the CB, half expecting that voice to come back. I wanted to turn it off, rip it out even, but some instinct kept my hand away, like I knew I'd regret it if I didn't keep it on. The memory of that laugh was still clawing at the back of my mind, setting my nerves on edge. Then, as if on cue, it happened. Static flared, louder than before, making me jump. I gripped the wheel tighter, leaning forward, eyes locked on the radio. At first, it was just a faint hiss, the usual hum of nothingness. But then, it started to change. The static wasn't random anymore. There was a pattern, a pulse, almost like breathing. I tried to focus on the road, but that pulsing static pulled my attention, tightening the fear twisting in my stomach. And then, right when I thought it was just a bad signal or maybe my mind playing tricks, the voice came back. Sam. Still running, are you? The words sank in slow, and I could feel my heart hammering in my chest. I hadn't thought of it that way, hadn't thought I was running, but the truth of it hit me like a punch to the gut. I was trying to outrun something, but what? The voice? The darkness? Myself? Where are you going, Sam? It continued, softer now, almost like it was coaxing me. There's nothing for you out there. Turn back. I'm right here. I took a shaky breath, telling myself to get a grip. This was some prank, someone messing with the channel to spook me. But when I glanced in the rearview mirror, I swear I saw something, a flicker of movement in the distance, something dark against the black horizon, just there on the road behind me. I tore my eyes away, forcing myself to stay focused. The voice was back, whispering in that low, taunting tone. "You can't keep running forever, Sam. The road doesn't end. It just turns back around." Then the static faded again, and for a few minutes, there was only silence. But this time, the quiet felt worse. Like whoever or whatever was speaking to me was still there, waiting, just biding its time. My hands were slick with sweat, my breathing uneven. I started counting the miles, forcing my mind to focus on the distance left until the next town. But then, I saw the sign, or I thought I did. There, in the glare of my headlights, was the same bent-up Hickson sign I'd passed hours ago. Same rusted edge, same angle. My heart pounded, and I floored the gas, desperate to get away, to see anything else but that sign and the desolate stretch of desert. But not even 10 minutes later, the sign appeared again, like it had never left. And then the voice returned. It was one of those nights where the rain pounds so hard against your windshield, you can barely see past the hood of your truck. I was driving back from a long haul, dead tired and just wanting to get home. I don't usually stop for people on the road, especially not late at night, but when I saw him standing on the side of the highway, soaked to the bone and waving like his life depended on it, something in me said to stop. I rolled down the window just enough to yell over the rain. "Need a ride?" He didn't say anything, just nodded and climbed into the passenger seat without waiting for an invite. I remember thinking it was odd he didn't even thank me, but I figured maybe he was too cold or tired to talk. He pointed straight ahead, so I put the truck in gear and started driving again. The cab was quiet, except for the sound of rain hammering the roof and the occasional groan of the wipers struggling to keep up. I tried to make small talk. "Rough night, huh? Where you headed?" He didn't answer, didn't even look at me. Just sat there, dripping wet, staring straight ahead. It felt like hours, but it was probably only 20 minutes before we reached the outskirts of the next town. I was relieved, ready to drop him off and put the weirdness behind me. I slowed down, turned to let him know we were there, and the seat was empty. I slammed on the brakes, heart pounding. The passenger door was still locked, and the seatbelt was clipped in like he'd never been there. But the seat? It was soaked. There was mud on the floorboard too, like someone had stomped in with boots caked in dirt. I jumped out of the truck, yelling into the rain, "Hey, where the hell did you go?" Nothing. The road was empty, the darkness swallowing everything past the truck's headlights. I climbed back in, trying to calm down. Maybe I was more tired than I thought. Maybe he'd slipped out when I wasn't looking, though I couldn't figure out how. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. The air in the cab felt heavy, like something, or someone, was still there. I didn't sleep much that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, or what little I could remember of it. To be honest, I'm not sure I ever really saw it. It was like a blur, like my brain couldn't quite process him. A few weeks later, I had to take that same route again. I told myself it was just a coincidence that my hands were sweaty on the wheel as I neared that stretch of road. I kept glancing at the passenger seat, half expecting to see him sitting there, staring straight ahead like before. And then it happened. In the mirror, for just a second, I swear I saw him. Standing by the side of the road, soaked to the bone, waving me down just like the first time. My chest tightened, and I floored it, not daring to look back. I don't drive that way anymore. I can't. But sometimes, late at night, when the rain is heavy and the road feels endless, I catch myself looking in the mirror, expecting to see him. And I